TVR was founded by Trevor Wilkinson in Blackpool in 1946. In the beginning it was called Trevcar Motors and the company dealt in general engineering work. The TVR name came into use from 1947. Between 1949 and 1952, TVR built 3 bespoke cars using Morris 8 chassis and 1200cc Ford engines. In 1958, TVR launched its first production car, the Grand Tourer. The car spawned 3 generations over 10 years. It was a front-engined, rear-wheel drive compact sports car that featured engines from 1000 to 1800 cc's, which were sourced from Ford and the British Motor Corporation. By 1963, TVR had almost built 800 cars, and it was at that point it had decided to build its first V8 model, the Griffith. It had up to 271 horsepower, a huge amount in a fiberglass-bodied car that weighed 860 kilograms. It gave a power-to-weight ratio of 314 horsepower per tonne, more than the Ferrari 575 that came 40 years later. The Griffith could hit 60 in 5 seconds and had a top speed of over 160 miles an hour. However, not many dared, as it was such an unforgiving car at the top end, being extremely twitchy and before the days of safety equipment. In 1967, TVR replaced the Griffith with a similarly spec'd Tuscan V8. It was not a commercial success, with only 73 being sold. They also offered a V6 version, of which 101 were sold. In 1968, they released the smaller-engined Vixen, initially powered by a 1600cc Ford Kent engine, and later by Triumph 4 and 6-cylinder engines. It was a much bigger commercial success, with over 1,000 being sold in under 5 years. During the 1970 and 1971 British International Motor Show, TVR used nude models for its new models. This generated a chaotic response and created immediate publicity for TVR and its new products. TVR came close to being banned from the events, and this created even more publicity. The M-Series models were the main cars to benefit from this publicity. Produced between 1972 and 1979, they came available with Ford 4-cylinders, a pair of V6s, and a 5-litre Ford V8. And from 1975 came available with a 3-litre turbo, Britain's first ever turbocharged production car. In total, nearly 2,500 M-Series cars were built in 9 years, more than TVR had managed in the 14 years prior to this between all of its previous models. In 1980, TVR launched the Tasman, their controversially square and wedge-shaped car. It was available as a coupe or convertible and was powered by either a Ford 2-litre 4-cylinder or a 2.8-litre V6, the engine found in the Ford Capri. In 1981, TVR was bought out by Peter Wheeler, a chemical engineer who had made his fortune providing specialist equipment to the North Sea oil industry. Peter Wheeler had found the TVR Tasman underpowered, and at Wheeler's request, the Tasman was developed to fit a 200 horsepower variant of Rover's 3.5-litre V8, thus creating the Rover 350i. Subsequent models were fitted with 3.9, 4.2 and 4.4-litre variants of the Rover V8, and at the top of the range sat the 4.5-litre TVR 450, which had 320 horsepower and a top speed of over 150 miles an hour. In 1987, TVR launched the S-Series, the first model fully developed under Peter Wheeler's control. At the top of the range sat the Italian special V8S, powered by a 240 horsepower 2-litre supercharged V8 that could hit 60 in under 5 seconds. In 1990, TVR launched the second generation Griffith, a lightweight sports car powered by its own development of Rover's V8, ranging in capacity from 4 to 5 litres, which produced 340 horsepower and could see the car hit 60 in 4.1 seconds with a top speed of over 170 miles an hour. In 1992, TVR launched the Chimera. It had the same chassis and engine as the Griffith, but featured softer suspension, a larger body and a more spacious interior, with TVR marketing the Griffith as a sports car and the Chimera as its Grand Tourer. The Chimera was never meant to feature the front indicator's recess and air intake that sat below it, but Ned, Peter Wheeler's dog, bit the prototype, thus giving the car its final design. In total, over 5,000 Chimeras were built. In 1996, TVR launches the Cerberus. This is their first model to be powered by their own engines. These include a 4-litre inline-6 and a range of V8s. One of the top models being the 440 horsepower 4.5-litre V8 Speed 8, which has a top speed of 193 miles an hour and can hit 60 in under 4 seconds. This was completely outshone by the Speed 12, a 7.7-litre V12 monster that developed roughly 960 horsepower in a car weighing little over a tonne. It never went into production, with only a handful being built. Peter Wheeler described it as being plainly ridiculous and unusable for the road, with customer deposits returned and production plans immediately cancelled. The Speed 12 was believed to be capable of doing 60 in under 3 seconds and capable of a McLaren F1 rivalling top speed of over 240 miles an hour. In 1999, TVR launched the Tuscan, the second model to wear the name following the 60s original, a lightweight fiberglass-bodied sports car powered by straight sixes in between 3.6 and 4.2 litres in capacity. The 4.2 litre had 440 horsepower and could hit 60 in 3.6 seconds, and pull up from 100 miles an hour to 0 in 4.1. Despite EU laws requiring cars to be fitted with ABS and airbags from 2003, the Tuscan carried on in production without them fitted until the Tuscan was discontinued in 2006. TVR believed that following their testing and experience, the cars were safer without them. In 2002, TVR released the Tamora and the T350, two compact sports cars that both weighed under a tonne and were under 4 metres in length, yet both came with TVR's 350 horsepower 3.6 litre straight six. These models are only in production for 4 years, with only a couple of hundreds of each models being produced. In 2002, TVR began building the Typhon, its fastest ever production car. Its 4.2 litre straight six had 440 horsepower, with the car weighing little over 1,000 kilograms due to its fully carbon fibre build. 0 to 60 took less than 4 seconds, and it had a top speed of 200 miles an hour. Roughly 50 Typhons were built. TVR also experimented with a supercharged model that was tested to develop 585 horsepower. It could hit 60 in little over 3 seconds and had a top speed of over 250 miles an hour. This was thanks to having a better power-to-weight ratio than a Ferrari Enzo. Bosses believe that only one supercharged Typhon was built, but multiple engineers have been quoted saying that they actually built 4. In 2004, TVR was bought out by Nikolai Smolensky, a Russian man who was 24 years old, who had little experience in the automotive world, but had gained huge financial backing from his father, who had earned hundreds of millions through the black market, having been involved in counterfeit trade, embezzlement and money laundering. In 2004, TVR launched the Sagaris. The car was developed under Peter Wheeler's control, who had chosen to ignore the EU laws, and saw the Sagaris released without ABS or airbags. Power came from a 400 horsepower 4 litre straight six. No special editions of the Sagaris were released, and only 211 were ever built, as in 2006 the TVR company had gone bankrupt. In 2013, TVR was sold back to a British company run by Les Edgar, having seen 0 cars developed under Russian ownership. As of 2017, TVR has been working on a third generation of the Griffith. This time around, power comes from a 5 litre Cosworth Ford V8, which produces 500 horsepower and is estimated will see the new model up to 200 miles an hour. The new Griffith was meant to have been released in 2019. However, the company has faced multiple financial and funding troubles, as well as complications during the COVID period, with production expected to begin in 2025.